Commander Zexhai stood on the bridge of his warship, watching the small human mining colony through the main screen. Kepler Station looked peaceful from space. Tiny lights dotted the surface of the rocky planet below. Ships moved slowly between the station and the mining platforms. The humans had no idea what was coming. The Vorthak fleet waited in the darkness behind the planet's moon. 200 warships stayed hidden, their engines cold and weapons ready. Zexhai had spent months planning this trap. The humans would regret ever setting foot in this part of space. "Status report," Zexhai ordered, his 4 arms crossed behind his back. His red skin gleamed under the bridge lights, and his black eyes focused on the tactical display. "All ships in position, Commander," replied his second officer. "The human colony has been captured. Our ground forces control all communication systems." Zexhai smiled, showing his sharp teeth. The attack on Kepler Station had been quick and brutal. The Vorthak had struck during the colony's night cycle when most humans were sleeping. Within 2 hours, they controlled everything. The miners never had a chance to send a real distress call, but that was exactly what Zexhai wanted. He had studied human military responses for years. Humans always came when their people called for help. They couldn't help themselves. It was a weakness the Vorthak would use to destroy Earth's fleet once and for all. "Bring me the human prisoner," Zexhai commanded. 2 Vorthak soldiers dragged a beaten human onto the bridge. The man's mining uniform was torn and bloody. His name tag read, "Peterson, Chief Communications Officer." Perfect. This human would help them create the perfect trap. "You will help us send a message to Earth," Zexhai told Peterson. "You will. Tell them your colony is under attack. You will beg for help." Peterson spat blood on the metal floor. "Go to hell, alien!" Zexhai nodded to his soldiers. They grabbed Peterson's arms and twisted until he screamed. The sound echoed through the bridge. After a few minutes, they stopped. "The message," Zexhai repeated, "or we will do worse things to your friends downstairs." Peterson's shoulders sagged. He looked at the floor and nodded slowly. "What do you want me to say?" Zexhai handed him a datapad with the script already written. "Read this exactly. Do not change a single word. If you try to warn them, everyone in your colony dies." Peterson took the pad with shaking hands. His eyes scanned the words. The message was simple but effective. It would sound like a desperate call for help from a human colony under attack by unknown enemies. Earth's fleet would rush to save their people and fly straight into the ambush. "This is Kepler Mining Station calling any Earth ships in range," Peterson read into the communication system. His voice shook with fear and pain. "We are under attack by unknown hostile forces. Repeat, we are under attack. We have heavy casualties and need immediate assistance. Please help us. They came out of nowhere. Our defenses are failing. If anyone can hear this, please send help." The message was perfect. Even Zexhai felt sorry for the humans who would receive it. They would hear the fear in Peterson's voice and rush to help without thinking. Humans were so predictable. "Send the message on all human emergency frequencies," Zexhai ordered. "Make sure it reaches Earth." The communication officer worked at his station. "Message sent, Commander. It should reach Earth's outer defense networks in 6 hours." Zexhai walked to the main screen and stared at the stars. Somewhere out there, Earth's fleet was going about their normal business. They had no idea that one of their colonies was sending a desperate call for help. Soon, they would drop everything and rush to save their people, but they would find only death waiting for them. "How long until the Earth ships arrive?" asked the second officer. 3 days, Zexhai replied. "Maybe 4. They will send a rescue fleet of 20 or 30 ships, fast cruisers, and maybe 1 battleship. They will want to get here quickly to save the colony." The bridge crew made sounds of approval. 20 or 30 human ships against 200 Vorthak warships would be a massacre. The human fleet wouldn't stand a chance. "And after we destroy their rescue fleet?" the second officer asked. Zexhai's eyes gleamed with ambition. "Then we follow the debris trail back to Earth. With their outer fleet destroyed, their homeworld will be defenseless. The mighty humans will fall like all the others." The Vorthak had been conquering planets for 50 years. They were the strongest military force in this part of the galaxy. Dozens of alien civilizations had fallen before their fleets. The humans would be just another addition to the Vorthak Empire. "Commander," the communication officer called out, "we're receiving acknowledgement signals from several Earth stations. They heard the distress call." "Excellent. What do they say?" Standard emergency responses. They're asking for more details about the attack and promising help is coming. HFY laughed. The humans were so easy to manipulate. They heard a cry for help and immediately wanted to know more so they could help better. It never occurred to them that the whole thing might be a trap. Do not respond to their questions, HFY ordered. Let them think the communication system was damaged in the attack. It will make them more desperate to reach us quickly. The hours passed slowly as the Vorthak fleet waited in the shadow of the moon. HFY spent his time reviewing tactical data and planning the ambush. He had positioned his ships in 3 groups. When the human rescue fleet arrived, they would surround them and attack from all sides. The humans wouldn't be able to escape or fight back effectively. The plan was perfect. HFY had studied every human military engagement for the past 20 years. He knew how they fought and how they thought. Humans were brave but stupid. They always rushed into danger to save others without thinking about the consequences. That bravery would be their downfall. Commander, the scanning officer reported. Long-range sensors are picking up movement in human space. Multiple ship signatures, heading this way. HFY felt his blood pump faster. How many ships? Difficult to tell at this range. At least 20, maybe more. Perfect. The trap was working exactly as planned. In a few days, the human rescue fleet would arrive expecting to fight off some pirates or raiders. Instead, they would face the full might of the Vorthak war fleet. All ships maintain communication silence, HFY ordered. No one moves until I give the command. We wait until every human ship is in the system before we spring the trap. The Vorthak fleet settled in to wait. In the colony below, human prisoners worked in the mines under armed guard. They had no idea their desperate call for help was really a death sentence for whoever came to save them. HFY stood at the bridge window, looking out at the stars. Soon, Earth's fleet would arrive. Soon, the Vorthak would take another step toward controlling this entire sector of space. The humans thought they were special, but they would learn the same lesson as every other species the Vorthak had conquered. No one could stand against the Vorthak Empire. Not even the legendary human fleet. The trap was set. Now all they had to do was wait for their prey to arrive. Admiral Chen Martinez stared at the communication display in his office on Luna Station. The distress call from Kepler had come in 6 hours ago, and something about it bothered him. He had been protecting human colonies for 30 years, and this message felt wrong. "Play it again," he told his aide. The recording filled the room. Peterson's frightened voice begged for help as explosions echoed in the background. It sounded real, but Martinez had trained his ear to catch details others missed. The fear was genuine, but the words were too clean, too perfect. "Sir," his aide said carefully, "the other admirals are asking when we deploy the rescue fleet." Martinez rubbed his gray beard. "Tell them to wait. Something isn't right here." He pulled up Peterson's file on his computer. Chief Communications Officer at Kepler Station for 8 years, born on Mars, family on Europa. The man had sent dozens of routine reports over the years. Martinez had read them all. Computer, analyze speech patterns in this distress call against Peterson's previous communications. The computer hummed for a moment. Speech patterns show signs of stress consistent with emergency situations. However, vocabulary usage differs from subject's normal communication style by 37%. Martinez nodded grimly. Someone had forced Peterson to read a script. The question was who and why they wanted Earth's fleet to come running. "Get me Admiral Washington at Fleet Command," Martinez ordered. The communication screen lit up with the face of Admiral Sarah Washington, head of Earth's entire defense network. Her dark eyes were serious as always. "Chen, I assume you're calling about Kepler Station. How soon can you have ships there?" "Sarah, I think it's a trap. Someone forced Peterson to read that message. The speech analysis confirms it." Washington frowned. "You think pirates captured the colony to lure in a rescue fleet?" "Maybe, or something worse. I want to send scouts first, get a better picture of what we're facing. We don't have time for scouts. If that colony is really under attack, every hour we delay means more deaths." Martinez understood her urgency, but his instincts screamed danger. "Give me 12 hours to investigate. If I'm wrong, we send the rescue fleet. If I'm right, we save a lot of lives." Washington was quiet for a long moment. "Fine. 12 hours. But if you find nothing suspicious, we move fast. The screen went dark, and Martinez got to work. He sent encrypted messages to every human ship and station within 50 light-years of Kepler. Trading vessels, mining ships, exploration craft, anyone who might have seen something unusual. The responses came back quickly, too quickly, and all saying the same thing. Large alien fleet movements near Kepler. Ships that didn't match any known pirate groups. Military formations that suggested a major power was involved. Martinez felt cold dread in his stomach. This wasn't some pirate raid. Someone was using human lives as bait to lure Earth's fleet into an ambush. The question was who? Sir, his aide, rushed into the office. We're getting reports from all over human space. Alien fleet movements, unusual communication intercepts, diplomatic channels going quiet. It's like someone is preparing for a major operation. Martinez stood up and walked to his window overlooking Luna's surface. Earth hung in the black sky like a blue jewel. Somewhere out there, an enemy was using one of humanity's greatest strengths against them, their willingness to help their own. But they had made one critical mistake. They thought humans would send a small rescue fleet. They expected 20 or 30 ships rushing in to save the colony. They had no idea what they had actually done. Martinez activated his command console and sent a priority message to every admiral in human space. The response came back within minutes. Unanimous agreement. Aide, send this message to every fleet commander in human space, Martinez ordered. Operation Fire Response is now active. All available ships are to converge on Kepler Station immediately. Priority Alpha authorization. The aide's eyes went wide. Sir, that's our entire fleet. Every ship we have. Exactly. Someone wants to play games with human distress calls. Time to teach them why that's a bad idea. Across human space, the response was immediate and overwhelming. The Third Fleet abandoned their patrol of the Mars shipping lanes. The 7th Battle Group left their positions guarding the Jupiter colonies. Deep space exploration vessels turned around mid-mission. Even the legendary First Assault Fleet, veterans of humanity's worst battles, broke their classified patrol to answer the call. Admiral Martinez watched the tactical display as hundreds of ship signatures began moving toward Kepler. Battleships. Cruisers, destroyers, carriers, assault ships, and support vessels. The largest fleet humanity had ever assembled was converging on a single point in space. Sir, the communication officer called out, we're receiving a message from the Vorthak Confederacy. They want to discuss territorial boundaries. Martinez almost laughed. The Vorthak. Of course. He had fought them before during the border skirmishes 5 years ago. They were brutal and efficient, but they had never tried anything this bold. Tell them we're busy, Martinez replied. They can wait. The Vorthak message was probably an attempt to distract Earth while they sprung their trap at Kepler. They wanted humanity to think this was just another border dispute while they destroyed Earth's rescue fleet. Too bad for them, they had no idea what was really coming. Admiral, his aide said, final count shows 847 ships responding to the call. Estimated arrival at Kepler in 72 hours. Martinez smiled coldly. Send a message to whoever is waiting at Kepler. Broadcast it on all frequencies so everyone can hear. What should it say, sir? Martinez thought for a moment. Tell them that forging a human distress call is an act of war against all humanity. Tell them that we know what they did, and we're coming with everything we have. And tell them that when we're done, no one will ever think about faking one of our emergency calls again. The message went out across the galaxy, translated into dozens of alien languages. Martinez wanted everyone to hear it. He wanted every alien civilization to understand what happened when someone betrayed humanity's trust. Within hours, diplomatic channels came alive with frantic communications. Allied species wanted to know if humanity was declaring war. Neutral governments asked for clarification. Even hostile civilizations seemed worried about what Earth was planning. Martinez ignored them all. His focus was entirely on Kepler Station and whoever was waiting there. They had taken human lives and used them as bait. They had violated the most sacred trust in space, the distress call. Now they would learn why that was a mistake. Sir, the scanning officer reported, long-range sensors show alien fleet movements near Kepler. Large formations, at least 200 ships. Definitely Vorthak signatures. 200 ships, Martinez mused. They really thought big, didn't they? Too bad they thought too small. His aide looked nervous. Sir, what if it's not enough? What if they have more ships than
we thought?
Martinez looked at the tactical display showing Earth's massive fleet converging on Kepler, 847 of humanity's finest warships, crewed by the best sailors in space, armed with weapons no other species had ever seen. Then, we send more ships, he said simply. But I don't think that will be necessary. The die was cast. In less than 3 days, the largest fleet in human history would arrive at Kepler Station. They would find whoever had dared to forge a human distress call, and they would make sure it never happened again. Martinez only hoped some of the colonists were still alive when they got there. But even if they weren't, justice would be served. Humanity was coming, and they were bringing fire. Commander Zexhai was studying tactical reports when his communication officer screamed, "Commander! Emergency scan results from our deep space sensors!" Zexhai spun around, his forearms tensing. The panic in his officer's voice sent ice through his veins. "What is it?" "Ships, sir. Human ships. Hundreds of them, maybe more. All heading this way." The bridge fell silent except for the hum of electronics. Zexhai felt his blood turn cold. "How many ships?" Scanning officer, voice shaking, checked his instruments again. "At least 500 confirmed signatures. Probably more. They're coming from every direction." Zexhai stared at the tactical display in disbelief. Red dots filled the screen, each one representing a human warship. This wasn't the small rescue fleet he had expected. This was Earth's entire military. "That's impossible," he whispered. "They wouldn't send their whole fleet to save one colony." But the evidence was right there on the screen. Massive battleships, carrier groups, assault fleets, everything Earth had was rushing toward Kepler Station. Zexhai's carefully planned ambush had turned into a trap with him on the wrong side. "Sir," another officer called out, "we're receiving a transmission from the human fleet. It's being broadcast on all frequencies." "Put it through." Admiral Martinez's voice filled the bridge, calm and deadly. "To whoever is responsible for forging a human distress call at Kepler Station, we know what you did. We know you captured our people and forced them to read your script. Forging a human distress call is an act of war against all humanity. We are coming with our entire fleet, and we will not show mercy." The message continued, but Zexhai couldn't hear it over the sound of his own heartbeat. They knew. Somehow, the humans had figured out that the distress call was fake. Instead of rushing blindly into his trap, they had prepared for war. "Commander," his second officer said quietly, "what are your orders?" Zexhai looked around the bridge at his crew. They were all staring at him, waiting for him to fix this disaster. But there was no fixing it. He had awakened something terrible. And now it was coming for them. "Send a priority message to Vorthak Command," he ordered. "Tell them we need immediate reinforcements. All available fleets." "Sir, the nearest Vorthak fleet is 6 days away. The humans will be here in 2 days." Zexhai closed his eyes. 6 days. They would all be dead long before help arrived. His brilliant plan had become a death sentence for every Vorthak in the system. "Commander," the communication officer reported, "we're receiving frantic messages from Vorthak Command. They want to know why the humans are mobilizing their entire fleet." "Tell them the truth," Zexhai said bitterly. "Tell them I thought I could outsmart the humans. Tell them I was wrong." The hours crawled by as more reports came in. Human ships were arriving from all over their territory. Battle groups that hadn't worked together in years were coordinating their approach. Even worse, alien governments across the galaxy were demanding to know what was happening. "Sir," his intelligence officer said, "we're intercepting diplomatic communications. The humans broadcast their message about the fake distress call in 47 languages. Everyone knows what we did." Zexhai felt sick. The plan was supposed to be secret. A quick ambush, destroy the human rescue fleet, and claim they had been defending themselves against human aggression. Now the entire galaxy knew the truth. What are the other governments saying? "They're staying neutral, sir. None of our allies want to get involved. Some are even condemning our actions." Of course, they were. Distress calls were sacred across all spacefaring species. Every civilization depended on others responding to emergency signals. By faking one, Zexhai had violated one of the most important laws of space. "Commander," his tactical officer called out, "new scanning data. We've identified specific human ship classes. They have dreadnoughts, sir. Multiple dreadnoughts. Zexhi's stomach dropped. Dreadnoughts were the largest warships humans built. Each one carried enough firepower to destroy a small fleet. The fact that they were bringing multiple dreadnoughts meant this wasn't just about rescuing Kepler Station anymore. Sir, there's more. We're detecting signatures from the first assault fleet. Every Vorthak on the bridge turned to stare. The first assault fleet was legendary. They were humanity's elite fighting force, veterans of the worst battles in human history. They only deployed for total war. Commander, his second officer whispered, maybe we should surrender. Zexhi almost laughed. Surrender to the humans after what he had done? After taking their people prisoner and using them as bait? The humans weren't coming to accept surrender. They were coming for revenge. Open a channel to all ships, Zexhi ordered. Tell them to prepare for battle. All weapons online, shields to maximum. If we're going to die, we'll die fighting. But even as he gave the order, Zexhi knew it was hopeless. 200 Vorthak ships against nearly 1,000 human warships was suicide. His crew knew it too. He could see the fear in their eyes. Sir, the communication officer said, Vorthak Command is ordering us to withdraw immediately. They say this engagement is too dangerous to continue. Tell Command that withdrawal is impossible. The humans have us surrounded. We can't run even if we wanted to. It was true. The human fleet was approaching from all directions, cutting off every escape route. They had planned this perfectly, turning Zexhi's own ambush tactics against him. Commander, his intelligence officer reported, we're receiving surrender, offers from 3 alien species. They want to mediate peace talks with the humans. And what do the humans say? They're not responding to mediation offers, sir. Their only communication is the same message they've been broadcasting. Prepare for total war. Zexhi walked to the main viewing screen and stared out at the stars. Somewhere out there, the largest human fleet ever assembled was coming to destroy him. He had thought he was so clever, using humanity's compassion against them. Instead, he had triggered something far worse. The humans weren't just angry about the fake distress call. They were furious about the betrayal of trust. Distress calls were how civilizations asked for help in their darkest moments. By faking one, Zexhi had poisoned something pure and necessary. Sir, his aide asked quietly, do you think they'll show mercy to the colonists? Zexhi considered the question. The humans were coming for war, but they were still human. They would probably try to save their people if they could. It might be the only good thing to come from this disaster. Maybe, he said, but they won't. Show mercy to us. The tactical display continued to fill with red dots as more human ships arrived at the edge of the system. Each new signature was another nail in the Vorthak coffin. Zexhi had wanted to destroy a small human rescue fleet. Instead, he had brought down the wrath of their entire civilization. All stations report ready for battle, his tactical officer announced. Zexhi nodded grimly. Then we wait. In a few hours, we'll see if the humans are as dangerous as everyone says they are. He already knew the answer. The humans were coming and they were bringing fire. His only hope was that his death would serve as a warning to other species. Never ever fake a human distress call. The countdown to destruction had begun. Admiral Martinez stood on the bridge of the UES Retribution as his massive fleet dropped out of hyperspace around Kepler Station. The sight before him made his jaw clench with anger. Vorthak warships filled the system, arranged in perfect ambush. Formation around the human colony, sir, his tactical officer reported. Confirmed count of 200 enemy vessels. They're positioned exactly where they'd need to be to destroy a small rescue fleet. Martinez nodded grimly. His instincts had been right. This was a carefully planned trap, and the Vorthak had used human lives as bait. That mistake would cost them everything. Open a channel to all ships, Martinez commanded. This is Admiral Martinez to all fleet commanders. We have confirmed hostile forces in the system using our colonists as shields. Rules of engagement are weapons free. Priority is colonist safety, but show no mercy to the enemy. Across the human fleet, 800 ships powered up their weapons. The space around Kepler Station lit up with the glow of charging energy systems. The largest fleet in human history was ready for battle. Sir, the communication officer called out, we're receiving a transmission from the enemy commander. Put it through. Commander Zexhi's face appeared on the screen. The Vorthak looked desperate. his red skin pale with fear. "Admiral Martinez, I am Commander HFY of the Vorthak Confederacy. We are prepared to negotiate the release of your colonists." Martinez stared at the alien with cold fury. "Commander HFY, you forged a human distress call. You used our people as bait to lure our ships into an ambush. There will be no negotiations. Admiral, please be reasonable. A battle here will result in massive casualties on both sides. Surely we can reach an agreement." "You should have thought about casualties before you betrayed the trust of every spacefaring species in the galaxy. Distress calls are sacred, Commander. You violated that trust, and now you'll pay the price." HFY's image flickered as weapons fire erupted across the system. The human fleet had begun its attack without waiting for negotiations to end. Martinez cut the communication and focused on the tactical display. "All carriers launch fighters," he ordered. "Battleships, target their heavy units. Destroyers, screen the carriers and watch for breakout attempts." The space around Kepler Station exploded into chaos. Human fighters poured from carrier decks like angry insects. The small craft moved in perfect formation, their pilots trained for exactly this kind of battle. They swarmed around the larger Vorthak ships, targeting weapon systems and shield generators. The Vorthak tried to respond with their own fighters, but they had planned for an ambush, not a massive fleet engagement. Their ships were positioned to surround and destroy a small rescue force, not to fight hundreds of human warships attacking from all directions. "Sir," the tactical officer reported, "the Retribution's main weapon is ready to fire." Martinez looked at the massive Vorthak dreadnought anchored near Kepler Station. It was the biggest threat to the colonists, and it had to be eliminated quickly. "Target their command ship, full power." The Retribution's stellar lance weapon charged with a deep humming sound that vibrated through the entire ship. The experimental weapon gathered energy from the ship's fusion reactors and focused it into a beam that could cut through any known armor. "Firing," the weapons officer announced. A brilliant blue beam lanced out from the Retribution's bow. It crossed the distance to the Vorthak command ship in less than a second. The alien vessel's shields flared and failed instantly. The beam cut through the ship's hull like a knife through paper, slicing it in half. The explosion lit up half the system as the Vorthak flagship died. Commander HFY and his entire crew were vaporized in an instant. The sight sent shockwaves through the remaining Vorthak fleet. "Enemy flagship destroyed," the tactical officer reported. "Remaining enemy vessels are breaking formation." But there was nowhere for them to run. Human ships surrounded the system, cutting off every escape route. The Vorthak found themselves trapped in their own ambush formation, unable to maneuver effectively or retreat. "Sir," the communication officer called out, "multiple enemy ships are requesting permission to surrender." Martinez considered for a moment. The Vorthak had used human colonists as bait and violated one of the most sacred laws of space. But his job was to rescue the colonists, not commit genocide. "Tell them we'll accept surrender, but only unconditional surrender. They will power down all weapons and prepare to be boarded. Any ship that tries to fight or run will be destroyed." Across the battlefield, Vorthak ships began shutting down their weapons and raising surrender flags. But not all of them. Some commanders chose to fight to the death rather than face human justice. The battle continued for 3 hours. Human fighters danced between the larger ships, picking off targets with precision strikes. The battleships used their massive guns to pound enemy vessels into scrap metal. The carriers coordinated everything with perfect efficiency. Martinez watched his tactical display as red enemy symbols disappeared one by one. The Vorthak had been skilled fighters in their own right, but they were completely outmatched. Human technology, training, and tactics were simply superior. "Sir," his aide reported, "casualty reports coming in. We've lost 12 fighters and 1 destroyer. Enemy casualties are much higher." Martinez nodded. The price had been surprisingly light for such a massive battle. The human fleet had performed perfectly, with each ship knowing exactly what to do. Years of training and preparation had paid off. "Admiral," the scanning officer called out, "we're receiving signals from the colony. The colonists are alive. They're being held in the mining complex." Martinez felt relief wash over him. The main goal of the mission had been accomplished. The colonists were alive and could be rescued. Everything else was just clean up. "Send word to the Marines," he ordered. "Prepare for planetary assault. I want every colonist safely off that planet within 6 hours." Around Kepler Station, human assault ships moved toward the planet's surface. Marines in powered armor prepared for combat operations. They would secure the colony and rescue every human on the planet, no matter what it took. But Martinez wasn't finished with the Vorthak. The battle at Kepler was just the beginning. The aliens had declared war on humanity by faking that distress call. Now they would learn what that really meant. Communications. Send this message to Earth and all human colonies, Martinez said. Kepler Station has been liberated. Colonists are safe. We're beginning Phase 2 operations immediately. His aide looked confused. Phase 2, sir? Martinez smiled coldly as he looked at the tactical display showing the locations of every Vorthak military base within 200 light-years of human space. We're going to make sure no one ever thinks about faking another human distress call. Send word to all fleet commanders, we're not going home. We're going hunting. The Battle of Kepler was over. The war against the Vorthak Confederacy was just beginning. And when it was finished, every species in the galaxy would understand one simple truth. Never betray humanity's trust. The human fleet began to spread out across Vorthak space, carrying fire and fury to every world that had supported this betrayal. The aliens had wanted to use humanity's compassion against them. Instead, they had unleashed something far more dangerous, human justice. 6 months after the Battle of Kepler Station, Admiral Martinez stood in the command center of the liberated world of Vorthak Prime. Through the tall windows, he could see human ships patrolling the skies above the alien capital city. The war was over, but the consequences were just beginning to unfold. The campaign had been swift and brutal. Human forces had swept through Vorthak space like a storm of fire, liberating every world the aliens had conquered. The Vorthak military had fought bravely, but they were no match for humanity's advanced technology and overwhelming numbers. Sir, his aide announced, the final casualty reports are ready. Martinez took the datapad and read through the numbers. In 6 months of fighting, humanity had lost 43 ships and just over 2,000 personnel. The Vorthak Confederacy had lost their entire military and their government. It wasn't even close to being a fair fight. And the colonies they conquered? All liberated, sir. We've restored government to 23 worlds and helped evacuate populations from 6 planets that were too damaged to rebuild quickly. The alien species they enslaved are free. Martinez nodded with satisfaction. The rescue of human colonists at Kepler had grown into something much larger. When the human fleet discovered how many other species the Vorthak had conquered and enslaved, there was no question about continuing the campaign. Admiral, his communication officer called out, we have an urgent message from Earth. They want to discuss the distress call accords. Martinez smiled. The accords were his idea, born from the ashes of the Vorthak War. If someone was going to fake distress calls, the galaxy needed laws to prevent it from happening again. Put them through. Admiral Washington appeared on the screen, looking tired but pleased. Behind her, Martinez could see the flag of the newly formed Galactic Emergency Response Council. Chen, congratulations on another successful liberation. The Council just approved the distress call accords. 47 species have signed already. What about the holdouts? The hegemony is still considering it, but they'll sign. After what happened to the Vorthak, no one wants to risk humanity's anger. The accords are going to become universal law within a year. Martinez felt a deep sense of satisfaction. The distress call accords would make faking emergency signals a crime against all spacefaring civilizations. Any species that violated the treaty would face the combined response of every signatory world. What about enforcement? That's the best part, Washington replied with a grin. Guess who gets to lead the emergency response fleet? Martinez raised an eyebrow. Please tell me it's not what I think it is. Congratulations, Admiral. You're now in command of the largest peacekeeping force in galactic history. 40 species have contributed ships to the joint fleet. When someone sends a real distress call, you'll be there to help. When someone fakes one, she shrugged. Well, we've seen what happens then. The screen went dark, and Martinez turned. Back to the window overlooking Vorthak Prime. The alien city below was slowly returning to normal life. Former slaves walked freely through the streets. Children played in parks that had been off-limits during military rule. It was a good sight. Sir, his aide said quietly, there's someone here to see you, a prisoner from the original battle. Martinez turned, curious. Most of the Vorthak prisoners had been processed months ago. Who is it? Commander Zexhi's second officer. The one who survived when their flagship was destroyed. Martinez nodded. He remembered the alien from the surrender records. Bring him in. The Vorthak officer entered the room, flanked by 2 human guards. He looked older than his file suggested, with scars across his red skin and defeat in his black eyes. The months in prison had clearly been hard on him. Officer Quetzalcoatl, Martinez said, reading from his datapad. You were second in command during the Kepler operation. Yes, Admiral, the alien replied in heavily accented English. I have come to ask for permission to address the galactic media. Martinez was surprised. About what? About what we did. About what happened when we forged your distress call. I want to tell everyone the truth. The truth is already public record. Everyone knows what the Vorthak did. Quetzalcoatl shook his head sadly. They know the facts, Admiral. They know we faked the call and you destroyed our fleet. But they don't understand what we unleashed. They don't understand what it means to provoke humanity. Martinez studied the alien's face. There was something there beyond simple defeat. Fear, maybe. Or respect. What do you want to tell them? That humans are not like other species, Quetzalcoatl said slowly. We thought you were soft because you help others. We thought your compassion was weakness. We were wrong. The alien walked to the window and looked out at the human ships in the sky. When other species go to war, they fight until one side wins. When humans go to war, they fight until the problem is solved forever. You didn't just defeat our fleet. You changed the entire galaxy. Martinez joined him at the window. We did what was necessary. You did more than that. You created laws that will protect every species in space. You built a fleet that will enforce those laws. You turned our crime into something that will help everyone. Quetzalcoatl turned to face Martinez directly. That is what I want to tell the galaxy. That humans don't just respond to threats. You respond to the idea of threats. You make sure the same problem can never happen again. Martinez considered the request. A warning from a former enemy might carry more weight than anything. Humans could say themselves, permission granted, but you'll say exactly what happened, without trying to make the Vorthak look like victims. I understand, Admiral. We were not victims. We were predators who chose the wrong prey. 2 hours later, Martinez watched the broadcast from his office. Quetzalcoatl sat across from a reporter on the neutral world of Sanctuary Station. The alien spoke clearly and calmly about the events at Kepler. Commander Zexhi thought he was clever, Quetzalcoatl told the galaxy. He thought humans were weak because they always help others. He thought we could use their kindness against them. He was wrong about everything. The reporter leaned forward. What did you learn about humans during the war? Quetzalcoatl was quiet for a moment. I learned that human kindness is not weakness. It is strength. When you help others, they help you. When you protect others, they protect you. Humans have friends throughout the galaxy because they earn those friendships. And what about human military power? Humans don't fight wars, Quetzalcoatl said simply. They solve problems. When we faked their distress call, we became a problem. They solved us completely. The interview continued for an hour. Quetzalcoatl described the overwhelming human response, the precision of their tactics, and the speed of their victory. But more importantly, he talked about what came after. They could have enslaved us like we enslaved others, he said. Instead, they freed everyone. We had conquered. They could have destroyed our worlds. Instead, they helped us rebuild. They turned their anger into justice. When the broadcast ended, Martinez felt satisfied. The message would spread across the galaxy. Humanity was not to be tested, but it would also spread another message. Humanity could be trusted. His communication console chimed with an incoming message. Martinez activated it and saw the face of Peterson, the communications officer from Kepler Station. Admiral Martinez, I wanted to thank you personally. All of us did. You saved our lives and got justice for what they did to us. Martinez smiled. How are you doing, Peterson? I heard you're back on duty. Yes, sir. I'm actually calling from the new emergency response station at Kepler. We're monitoring distress calls for this entire sector now, real ones, of course. Any problems so far? Peterson grinned. Not a single fake call since the war ended. Amazing how that works. As the call ended, Martinez looked out at the stars visible through his office window. Somewhere out there, human ships patrolled trade routes and responded to emergency calls. The emergency response fleet was growing every day as more species contributed ships and personnel. The Vorthak had thought they were setting a trap for humanity. Instead, they had triggered the creation of the most powerful peacekeeping force in galactic history. They had turned humanity's greatest strength, the willingness to help others, into an unstoppable tool for justice. Martinez activated his console and began reviewing reports from across human space. Trade was booming as species lined up to do business with humanity. Diplomatic requests poured in from governments wanting formal alliances. Even former enemies were asking for help with various problems. The fake distress call had been meant to destroy Earth's fleet. Instead, it had made humanity the protector of the galaxy, not through conquest or intimidation, but through proving that some things were sacred and worth fighting for. Martinez smiled as he read a message from a small mining colony in the Rigel system. They were requesting help with a pirate problem. Nothing serious, just a few raiders causing trouble, but they had sent the request through proper channels with all the correct authentication codes. A real distress call, the kind humanity lived to answer. "Aid," Martinez called out. "Dispatch the 5th Squadron to Rigel. Standard patrol protocols." "Yes, sir. They'll be there in 12 hours. Martinez leaned back in his chair and watched the stars. The Vorthak had learned too late that humanity's greatest strength wasn't their weapons or their technology.